Hi, this is Suzanne Bouchard, instructor for American Institute for Paralegal Studies. In our business law class, we've been discussing the various types of business organizations, and by far the most common small business structure is the sole proprietorship, a business entity owned and operated by a single individual. In this lecture, I want to discuss the advantages and the disadvantages of the sole proprietorship as a business entity. First, let's talk about the advantages. One thing small business owners like about the sole proprietorship is its ease of formation. Generally, the sole proprietor does not have to fill out and file any forms with any state agency to start the business, unless he or she wants to operate under a fictitious name. And filing for a fictitious name is usually fairly easy too. It involves filing a name certificate with the county recorder or the clerk of court, depending on the jurisdiction. Another advantage of the sole proprietorship is that it gives the business owner complete control over all aspects of the business. The sole proprietor has no partners or investors to answer to. All of the management decisions remain in the hands of the sole proprietor. Many entrepreneurs find this feature of the sole proprietorship very attractive. Another advantage is that the sole proprietorship allows the business owner to avoid the prospect of joint and several liability for the actions of partners. With joint and several liability, each defendant is liable for all the damages suffered by the plaintiff, and the plaintiff can sue any or all defendants until 100% of his or her damages are recovered. In the context of a partnership, for example, a business owner may be vicariously liable for the torts of his or her partner, even though the defendant did not actually commit the tortious act. So the sole proprietor avoids joint and several liability because he or she acts alone in the business. Another big advantage of the sole proprietorship involves tax savings. In contrast to the typical corporate form of business, in a sole proprietorship, the business's profits and losses are treated as the personal profits and losses of the business owner. There's no double taxation. Profits of the business are taxed only once as income to the owner, and losses or expenses are deductible. Now let's talk about some of the disadvantages of the sole proprietorship. First, it can be lonely being a sole proprietor. The flip side of having complete control over the business means that the owner also has complete responsibility for everything related to the business. So unless the sole proprietor hires help, he or she has nobody to share ideas with or to give advice. The job of running the small business often requires long hours, and for the sole proprietor, this can mean shouldering all of the workload. Another potential disadvantage of the sole proprietorship is that it does not have perpetual existence. In other words, unlike the corporate form of business, the sole proprietorship terminates upon the death or incapacity of the owner. For this reason, the sole proprietorship might not be the right form of entity for someone who wants to pass the business down to his or her children and grandchildren. Finally, perhaps the biggest disadvantage of the sole proprietorship is unlimited personal liability. All of the owner's personal assets, whether related to the business or not, may be attached to settle the owner's business debt. This means that an owner who fails to pay a supplier, for instance, or who is found liable for a business-related tort, has no protection from personal liability and could lose his or her house or other personal assets. Obviously, there are some clear advantages and disadvantages to the sole proprietorship as a business entity. Paralegals working in business law settings should be familiar with the characteristics of all of the various business structures. If you're not currently a student at AIPS, and if you'd like to have some more information about legal studies leading to careers in the law, please take a visit to our website at aips.com.